Hello students. So today we have topic approach to nephritic syndrome by Dr. Richa Agarwal, MD Medicine. It's kind of thanks to the madam that she took out her valuable time and taking lectures for the student. Thank you, ma'am. So I think we can start now.
Thank you, Nigam, for having me here. Today we're gonna discuss a bit about the clinical approach for nephritic syndrome. In what patients we suspect nephritic syndrome, what are the types of nephritic syndrome, and if we are suspecting someone with nephritic syndrome, what is the approach? What is the basic approach to these kind of patients? So basically, nephritic syndrome is a triad which includes hypertension, hematuria, and mild to moderate proteinuria. So any patient, if having hematuria with hypertension with proteinuria, you will suspect nephritic syndrome in all these patients. Depending upon the underlying etiology, they could have pyuria, RBC cast, and edema as well. But that is not in the diagnostic criteria of nephritic syndrome. So if we discuss about the classification of nephritic syndrome, so the causes which the underlying etiology which results in nephritic syndrome, it could be primary glomerulonephritis or it could be secondary glomerulonephritis. What I mean to say is, if there is primary glomerulonephritis, that means whatever is the cause, it is attacking the nephrons directly into the kidneys. But in secondary glomerulonephritis, there is some underlying systemic illness due to which immune complexes are formed and they deposit in the nephrons and causes the secondary nephritic syndrome. Both will manifest with the same complaints, same triad, but we will diagnose the etiology on the basis of the clinical, biochemical, and histopathological approach. So this is the basic approach. First, the clinical features. You will look for hematuria, hypertension, proteinuria, with or without RBC cast or edema. Then you will go for the urine analysis, which is the biochemical features. And then we will make the definite diagnosis on the basis of renal biopsy. So this is the basic pathology of both nephritic and nephrotic syndromes. There is proteinuria, and depending upon the glomerular injury, basically you have a barrier, right, which consists of 3 layers. One is endothelium, which is capillary endothelium. Then is the glomerular epithelial membrane. Then you have Bowman's capsule, which is lined by podocytes. So if you have more damage to the podocyte part, so there will be more proteinuria and your patient will present with nephrotic syndrome. But if you have direct injury to the glomerulus or to the capillary endothelium, you will have hematuria and less of proteinuria, and the patient will result in nephritic syndrome. So this is the basic difference between nephrotic and nephritic syndrome. Nephrotic syndrome patient will be more swollen because there is more loss of protein, which decreases the oncotic pressure, which results in the third space fluid loss, results in anasarca. But in contrast, nephritic syndrome is having direct glomerular injury, which activate RAS, which results in hypertension. And secondary, the other consequences for it will be oliguria or the hematuria. So this is the basic biochemical analysis which you will do if you suspect any case of nephritic syndrome. First is the urine analysis. When we talk about urine analysis, very first thing to document the case of glomerulonephritis is proteinuria. Whenever urine is showing protein in it, it means glomerular injury is there, whatever is the cause, either nephritic, either nephrotic, or whatever the underlying cause, glomerular injury is there if there is proteinuria. Now, with the spot urine analysis, you can only document that there is proteinuria, but you need to quantify per day amount of the protein excreted in the urine so that you can calculate a range. I mean, if it is more than 3 grams per day, it is nephrotic range proteinuria. Definitely your patient will have nephrotic syndrome, and you will have to check which is the cause of the nephrotic syndrome by renal biopsy or by giving steroid treatment. And if patient is having subnephrotic range proteinuria, it could be transient proteinuria, it could be orthostatic proteinuria, it could be nephritic proteinuria. So you have to basically, on the basis of clinical examination and biochemical examination, then you will make your diagnosis whether your patient's proteinuria fits in the nephritic syndrome, or it is transient proteinuria due to fever or exercise, or it is orthostatic proteinuria, like for example, some teachers or some professions which require prolonged standing. These patients will complain like for multiple myeloma. Then after protein, you will look for hematuria. If there is blood in urine, there could be two possibilities of hematuria. Either there is gross hematuria, like blood in urine, frank blood. It could be in IgA nephropathy or any bladder causes or any renal cause or post-renal cause. And if you have microscopic hematuria, that means urine is clear, but urine analysis will show RBC. That means patient could have nephritic syndrome. So these are the possible differential diagnosis if your patient is having hematuria. From nephritic to the bladder to urethra, anywhere damage can cause blood in urine. But the main one point which differentiates nephritic with the all other causes is that when you go for dysmorphic RBCs in urine, that will be positive only in the glomerulonephritis, that is in the nephritic syndrome, never be positive in the other post-renal causes. This is the main difference which differentiate glomerulonephritis from all other causes of hematuria, right? Dysmorphic RBCs and RBC cast. Third is pyuria, basically WBCs in urine, which could be due to underlying infection or could be due to inflammatory cell deposition. Like for example, in post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis, you will have WBCs in urine. Now, after this basic urine analysis and 24-hour proteinuria in your urine, then we will go for special investigation. Special investigation is basically you will decide about these investigations depending upon the overall clinical profile of the patient, because nephritic syndrome is not a disease itself, it is a presentation. So the underlying disease must be something other which you need to investigate. So depending upon the clinical feature, for example, if a young patient is presenting with joint pain, having rash and having chronic history, she's having pancytopenia and clinically you have hematuria, hypertension, and she fits into nephritic syndrome. So because it is a systemic illness and you will suspect secondary glomerulonephritis, which could be due to lupus. For example, if a patient is having hematuria with hemopsis, like pulmonorenal syndrome, that is Goodpasture syndrome, so you will go for anti-GBM antibody. So what I mean is, depending upon the clinical feature, whether patient is having systemic feature or the local feature, you will go for the special investigation. Then the complement in this nephritic syndrome, in the workup of nephritic syndrome, once you document that patient is having hematuria and proteinuria in the subnephrotic range, you will further advise either the special investigation if you're very sure about your diagnosis, or to narrow your differentials, you will go for the complement protein, C3 and C4 levels. So what is the rationale behind this complement levels? Whenever there is antigen antibody reaction and that immune complex deposition in the nephron, that will cause decreased complement system, because antigen antibody reaction, they activate the complements, they used up the complement protein, which decreases their levels in the blood. For example, lupus, for example, cryoglobulinemia, hepatitis B, hepatitis C associated glomerulonephritis. But if the antibody is directly damaging the nephrons without involving complement system, so in that case, your complement levels will remain normal in the blood. For example, Goodpasture syndrome, anti-GBM disease, there are direct damage to the membrane with the antibodies, no involvement of the complement, so there will be no decrease in the complement levels. So with this investigation, you can definitely narrow down your causes of nephritic syndrome. After narrowing your causes or after doing some special investigation, if your results are positive, definite diagnosis will always be made by renal biopsy. Without renal biopsy, you can't say what is the cause of nephritic syndrome, right? So when you do renal biopsy, the next thing we would do is immunofluorescence study. Immunofluorescence study is basically, it picks up the antigen antibody complexes and give you the basic location where these complexes are being formed. You will have two types of formations on IFA. Either the linear deposition, like in anti-GBM antibody disease, you will have a membrane and antibodies are formed against the whole of the membrane. So in that case, you will have a linear deposition throughout the glomerular membrane, antigen antibody complex will be deposited. But in other cases, you will have granular deposition where there is patchy deposition depending upon the area involved, right? So this is the example which I have given already. So all other causes are of glomerular immunofluorescence except this anti-GBM disease, which shows linear immunofluorescence pattern. This is rapidly progressive glomerulonephritis, any cause which causes nephritic syndrome in its extreme stage can result in RPGN, which is rapidly progressive glomerulonephritis. Your patient can go in acute renal failure and end-stage kidney disease with this. So this is basic diagnostic histopathology of RPGN, crescent formation. So many inflammatory cell deposit in the glomerular that they form a crescent and result in acute renal failure. So this is the bacterial infection associated glomerulonephritis. I put this slide to highlight two major differences. Post-bacterial infection, we can have a glomerulonephritis after streptococcal infection, or we can have it after staphylococcal infection. So the basic difference between the two is that in the streptococcal infection, glomerulonephritis occurs after the recovery of sore throat, 1 to 8 weeks after the recovery. But in staphylococcal infection, glomerulonephritis occurs during the active infection. When the staphylococcal infection is active in the skin or in the throat, in the same time it results in glomerulonephritis. Last thing you can do is ANCA, which is antibody, P-ANCA and C-ANCA. It is peroxidase antibody and anti-nuclease antibody. Basically, these are also patterns, basically either the cytoplasmic pattern or either the nuclear pattern. So depending upon this, you can diagnose vasculitis, because when you look for the causes of RPGN, there is a pauci-immune cause, which includes small vessel vasculitis. These are three small vessel vasculitis. One is Wagner's, one is microscopic polyangiitis, and then is Churg-Strauss syndrome. So to differentiate these three causes, you will go for ANCA. If the patient is having sinus involved, nose involved, lung involved, along with nephritic syndrome, so that is the clinical triad for Wegener disease, right? So you will order C-ANCA. But if patient is having like this generalized skin involvement or the nephritic syndrome per se, then you will order P-ANCA and you will differentiate these two types of vasculitis with it. So the basic thing for nephritic syndrome is that if you don't treat nephritic syndrome, it results in the end-stage renal failure and your patient will lose his kidneys. He'll go into the dialysis and then remain on dialysis throughout his life. So it is very important to evaluate the cause of nephritic syndrome. What is the underlying cause, which causes this syndrome? Because it is a clinical feature, it's not a disease itself, right? So without appropriate treatment, patient will definitely end up in renal failure. And that's why you have to diagnose it clearly, what is the baseline which causes the nephrotic syndrome. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Richa. It's a very wonderful and interactive session. And I am very sure that students will be benefited from it. And also I will make it sure that this PDF will be available in M4PG group and also in website. So thank you so much for the class, and we'll also look forward for next session. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikhil.